Welcome to part 5 of the 2018 Smark Out Moment Awards. We are in the final section for the WWE side of things. This is the Wrestler Awards categories, where we will be talking about the performers themselves, not in the technical side of things, not on the writing side of things, just in the overall sort of things. These are, if we were going to combine things, that this is the performer section that deals with the in-ring people. So let's start things off with the best and the worst newcomer of the year, which we have a lot of people to pick from because there are people that, for instance, NXT UK, the entire women's division in NXT UK for the most part. Some people, like Tony Storm, they had been in the Mae Young Classic last year, so they're not new for this year, but there's at least 6 or 7 names, like Zai Brookside or Ginny or Killer Kelly. We've got the men from the NXT UK side of things. Again, a lot of people were in the United Kingdom Championship tournament last year, and whether that's somebody like a Jordan Devlin or Trent Seven or Wolfgang, a lot of them don't necessarily count, but you got your Dave Mastiff, your Flash Morgan Webster, Ligero, Zach Gibson, so on and so forth. A lot of people into the second annual Mae Young Classic tournament that are not necessarily signed to the company, but there are people that, you can talk about if you want to talk about newcomers like Ariel Monroe, Miko Satomura, Priscilla Kelly, Karen Q, whoever you want to kind of do in that capacity. If you pick Zeuxis, then there's a problem. A lot of people from NXT as well. Io Shirai, Keith Lee, Ricochet, there's lots of different people that are going on here. Just to spoil, because I already brought up the name, my worst is Zeuxis. I talked before about her. I did not like anything that Zeuxis brought to the table. A lot of these people, they haven't done anything at all yet. Like, I don't know anything about Nasser Al-Ruwai, whatever, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I don't know anything about Rinku Singh. I don't know anything about Luke Menzies for the most part. So it's hard to really judge those kind of people. Maybe some of them are even worse, but Zeuxis, she stood out to me as just not good. And the two that I had been really kind of struggling with on the best side of things, well, actually, you know what? Honorable mention. Deanna Purrazzo, Keith Lee are really good. Matt Riddle has been showing off some good stuff. But the two that I can't quite decide on yet are Ronda Rousey and Ricochet. And I'll come back to that and make my decision. Kind of, maybe somebody will give me one way or the other. Those two, I think, have overall been doing the best job. So I'm going to go with one of those two. I just haven't quite figured out who yet. Who do you guys have? Best, worst, whatever you want to go with.
I'll start off then with worst. There are a few people that stood out. From NXT UK, I'm not a huge fan of Ashton Smith. I think I've said previously, I don't think that he's got very good, just basic wrestling work. And I know Rob's a big fan of her, but I think Isla Dawn is not very good in the ring.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of her either.
But my worst, well, the 3 worst for me came from the Mae Young Classic, and I'll just go down like third, second, first. My third one would have been Ashley Rain, or Madison Rain as she's better known, because I've never been a fan of her work. I don't think she's particularly good in the ring, and I don't think she's ever been particularly that good in the ring. Vanessa Craven was another one there as well, who was just like a big block, pretty much. But the worst, and I'll just echo Tony Zeuxis. She was really bad, and I'm glad that she didn't. Well, I'm annoyed that she might have to have 2 matches at that tournament rather than just the one.
Yeah, how did she have 2 matches and somebody like MJ Jenkins got eliminated in the first round?
Well, no, it's like Zoe Lee and Karen Q had one of the best, most fun matches from the first round, and one of them got eliminated, and Zeuxis was carrying on. Just make no sense to me. Best ones, there was a lot of like really good honorable mentions. War Raiders, I'd put up there. I think they're a lot better than some people are given credit for. from the Mayan Classic, Casey Catanzaro really stood out. It's really like somebody who really has a lot of star potential going forward. And Meiko Satomura, I think you could slot her into any women's division in WWE and she would be a star very quickly, or at least like a really solid foundation of a wrestler. But the top two are quite clearly to me Ronda Rousey and Ricochet. And I think I'll just edge it to Ronda Rousey because you knew as soon as Ricochet was going to come in that he was going to be amazing. But Ronda Rousey, you just you couldn't be so certain about. And how like impressive she has been based on just the expectations and the fact that she's improving very rapidly, and has really brought a lot of eyes to the women's division where it kind of feels a lot more main event than it used to. I think that's the big benefit that she's brought. So I'll say that she's the best newcomer.
For me, my worst, I'm just going to echo you guys and say Zeuxis. Just wasn't very good. And yeah, there were many better women in the tournament. I will disagree with Callum on Ashley Rain. I think she's actually pretty good considering the era she came up in and all of that. But my best, and for me it's not even close, Ronda Rousey, because Matt Riddle you knew was going to be good. Ricochet you knew was going to fit right into NXT. Ronda Rousey could have been really bad, and to her credit, she could have been Brock Lesnar. I only appear at SummerSlam, WrestleMania, and Survivor Series, and she's been on every Raw. She's been constantly working on her promos. So for that alone and for the clear dedication she has, she's my best for the year.
I think I'm leaning just the tiniest bit towards Ricochet for this argument. Ronda Rousey, if we were talking biggest improvement from the start, and like there's no argument that she has had a bigger effect on things than Ricochet. She definitely has. She's been doing a hell of a lot better job than I had given her credit for at the beginning of the year. She's wrestling good matches and everything like that. But I honestly think that if you ignore the idea that she came in as an outsider and worked her way to that level versus Ricochet coming in and you know that he's going to do well, still, fundamentally, if I take every Ricochet performance and every Ronda Rousey performance and I were to give them points, I haven't seen a bad Ricochet performance. And he's been doing a lot of really just like, whoa, that's something super interesting. Like, even just that flip where he did just to kind of be like, look, I can flip onto the ramp. Like, that was better than anything that Ronda Rousey did as far as a promo this year, for instance, or something. So I really, really want to give it to both of them, but I think just to be a little bit different, just to kind of make sure that Ricochet doesn't get cheated out of at least one win here, I think I'm going to go with Ricochet. But man, Ronda Rousey, talk about a pleasant surprise. That could have been a fucking mess. And she's great, so...
I think it's fair your explanation for it. Like, it shouldn't really be held against Ricochet. The fact that we knew how great he was coming in, and the fact that he has still just been great he should still definitely be one of the top names for like newcomers, just for the standard that he's set and has constantly delivered at. I just think that Ronda Rousey's one will have a lot of implications going forward, and
yeah, it will.
So that's just I think it was just like a wider impact that it could have on just women's wrestling in general. Whereas Ricochet, as great as he has been, will just be another great wrestler in the men's division.
I think if you look at this as 1A and 1B, no matter who you put in that, it makes sense. And if anybody's sort of like, well, I think that the best of this year is, I don't know, like Amir Jordan, then you'd be like, really? Or Allison Kay, like she was a fucking disappointment, a lot of things like that. So I think that there's really only a couple names you can bring up, and these two are definitely the top two. Can't go wrong with either of them. Let's go to the main roster call up. Now, just to clarify what this means, you have to be on NXT or in the Performance Center and go to Raw, SmackDown or 205 Live. That's just how it works. If you go from the Performance Center to the NXT side of things, you actually didn't get called up yet. And if you come straight in, like Ronda Rousey, you didn't get called up from anything. You got called up from the outside of the company. That's not how it works. So your options for people that got called up this year, because we still don't have EC3 and those people that they've said are going to get called up, they still haven't done it yet, so they don't count yet. We've got Andrade Cien Almas with Zelina Vega, the Authors of Pain, Billy Kay and Peyton Royce, the Iconics, Buddy Murphy, Drew McIntyre, kinda, if you want to constitute him that, because he was a part of NXT. He was a part of the roster before, so I totally see where people could say that doesn't count. Ember Moon, Leo Rush, Mark Andrews, because he came up to 205 Live, and No Way Jose, and the members of Sanity. So my best is Buddy Murphy. I think that as much as somebody like an Andrade Cien Almas he hasn't been used all that well, Buddy Murphy came up from nothing and became the Cruiserweight champion and the focal point of the show. So, I touted him before. He's the best upgrade for the year for me, and he's also the best call-up. But somebody who really had nothing going on this year whatsoever since being called up is No Way Jose. He is my worst. They called the dude up, slapped him with Adam Rose's leftovers, and then just they job him out on main event. What's the point? And there's a lot of people that could be picked for this, like Sanity, the Iconics. They haven't really done all that much, but No Way Jose, he's done even less, which is saying a lot. What you guys got?
For me, my best call up is I would have given it to Murphy, but 205 Live, that stigma is hindering it. And let me ask you, can I cheat here and say Mustafa Ali for going from 205 out to the roster?
Nope.
Well, fuck. Then Drew McIntyre, because he should have never been on NXT to begin with. He has always been slated for great things on the main roster, and I think 2019 will really be his year. And he elevated Dolph Ziggler. He elevated the Dolph Ziggler character to being a main eventer for the last 6 months or so of the year. So kudos to Drew McIntyre. Buddy Murphy definitely deserves some praise. And even though Tony said it doesn't count, Mustafa Ali, way to go. Worst call-up, it's a tie. Authors of Pain and Sanity. Because both teams did tremendous on NXT, and both are treated like shit on the main roster, and it's just not fair.
Best for me, I think Buddy Murphy definitely does deserve a lot of credit for the transformation that he's had this year. I also wanted to put like AOP just from a kayfabe standpoint. They won the Raw Tag Team Championship, so even though they weren't used as well as they could be, they still made it to the top. So it can't be the worst for them. But I'll give the best to Drew McIntyre as well, just because he's now one of the biggest stars on Raw. And even though I think that they're starting to retract on that a little bit with this stupid three-way feud that he's got going on with Finn Balor and Dolph Ziggler, which is leaving all three of them into mid-card purgatory. I think there's enough raw material there to build him up and have a very successful 2019.
What about if he goes to SmackDown, though? Is there enough SmackDown material?
I really...
I'm going to ignore that.
You know what I think, and I think Callum and I will agree with this as well. There's enough material there that he better win that Sexiest Superstars tournament next year.
Oh, yeah.
Every time that Caroline sees Drew McIntyre, she giggles and she goes, I just keep thinking of Callum, just talking about how he's a Greek god and all this.
He's a Scottish god. Fuck me with his claymore anytime. But we'll wait until next year, but I'm going to be pulling hard for him next year. Pulling certain parts of my body very hard, but it's like... Worst, though, I think both Noah Jose and Sanity are both very high up on that in the worst side of things, just because they were called up and basically did nothing with them at all. But I'm gonna give it to Andrade Cien Almas.
I was thinking you were going to go with Ember Moon. I'm surprised about
I mean,
that.
it was close between the two of them because it's just so disappointing. It's level of disappointment, really, because those two are so great, and they just do nothing with them. But the fact with Ember Moon is at least she's on most weeks, even if she's just having some random match with Dana Brooke or Nia Jax, whatever. At least she's just there performing. Whereas Andrade Cien Almas has gone missing for months at a time, and it's just so disappointing because he'd had such a resurgence in the last 6 months of his time in NXT, where he became the champion. And it was a legitimate championship reign. It wasn't like, oh, this guy's been here for a while, let's give him the title, see if he does something with it. He was the top guy in NXT, and he was putting on the best matches at the time. And now he's just on SmackDown, and yeah, he'll still put on a really good match when he's called upon, but they just don't have anything for him. And maybe things will pick up in 2019, but I think for what he had at the start of 2018, what he's ended up with, it was definitely a really bad choice for him to come up.
Yeah, can't make that argument against that. He needs a better year. He needs to win that United States title at the very least or something.
I will say all reports suggest that Vince is a fan, so that's got to count for something.
Well, it's just because, is he a fan to the point where, okay, we'll push this guy and give him an opportunity, or I'm a fan of this guy, let's have him put on really good matches and lose all the time against these people?
Well, he's got the package with Zelina Vega. That's got to be something Vince enjoys.
Well, they haven't done anything with it. And the thing is, he's put Zelina more in the ring. And, it's just a sign of, you don't understand what was great about this package. You just made them a mixed tag team.
They're one of those duos that I think we really are going to have to pay attention to what happens on the Superstar Shakeup.
Yeah.
Because I really think the Superstar Shakeup is going to be monumental this year. Multiple people coming up from NXT, lots of big changes. Because the Fox thing, I mean, even something as simple as, I was thinking of it last night, The Miz has to go to Monday Night Raw because he's got a USA show. So he's going to go on the USA thing. So if they don't want to add a lot of people to SmackDown until closer to October, if they want to do some kind of extra Superstar Shakeup or something like that, just to kind of we've got a shot of adrenaline in September, really get people talking or something. We could see a guy like Almas stay on SmackDown and be a big deal from WrestleMania until that point, just because they don't have a whole lot of other options. And then during that time frame, he wins some kind of a title or something, and then they start kind of giving him more of a push or something. Or they could do the shit that they do with so many different people, and they go, I like that guy, let's bring him over to Monday Night Raw and not do anything with him. Which is just, how many years have they done this whole draft kind of brand split type thing, and they still don't understand that idea? It's crazy. So he could be for a good 2019, or he could be for an atrocious 2019.
I'm just gonna make the prediction out there now, and I know we usually do this for the breakouts, the look into 2019 that we'll do coming up soon. But I'm making the prediction that they get split up in the
no way
in the brand split.
It might happen.
I think they'll turn Zelina just into a wrestler.
I have maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but that would be the stupidest thing you could possibly do.
And that's why I think they'll do it.
Let's pivot over to tag teams and stables because, who knows who ends up getting broken up here, because we've gotten a lot of people just throughout this year. The ones that, for instance, aren't a tag team anymore are Braun Strowman and Nicholas, Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin, the Deleters of Worlds, the Dogs of War, Ziggler and McIntyre, Ember Moon and Nia Jax, the Hardy Boys, Slater and Rhino, kind of, maybe. It sort of depends. Rhino's coming back as Santa Claus. That episode hasn't aired yet when we're recording this, so, Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins, Rusev Day, at least with Aiden English and Rusev, The Miz Taraj, Titus Worldwide, The Welcoming Committee, Tozawa and Atami, the Ely brothers. Committee? That was Natalia and a bunch of other people on SmackDown. Yeah, they were a thing.
Yeah, Natalia, Tamina, Carmella.
Carmella, and I
Stop-
think that
stop
there
it.
might have been another one.
I think Lana was there as well for a bit.
Yeah, Lana, I think. Kona Reeves and Dan Matha were a tag team. The Ely brothers were a tag team. They got released. Riddick Moss and Tino Sabatelli were a tag team. They split up, and then like a week later, both of them got injured, which is just like, woof. The Mighty are no longer a tag team. That's just the tag teams they split this year. Oh, and also Brian Kendrick's not with Gentleman Jack Gallagher and Drew Gulak anymore. Then you've got
curious to that one.
all the tag teams that are still together, which I'm not going to run down because it's too fucking long of a list. But you got like the Mickey James and Alexa Bliss, and sometimes Alicia Fox. And then you've got tag teams that are legit, like the Usos or the Lucha House Party. Tag teams that don't have names that they give names to, but then they don't want to actually commit to, like the Brit and Bruisers or the Brit and Brawlers. Or, as they always just go, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, which is fucking annoying. I hate it when they do that kind of shit. So there's a lot of people to pick from between 205 Live, the main roster, and NXT and NXT UK. And I still think, out of all those options, the best is the Undisputed Era. Because they are just awesome. They were tag team champions for the entire year outside of a 2-day span. And they had won the tag team titles last year. They elevated those tag team titles. They are incredibly entertaining every time that they go out and do anything. The only people that come close in my mind are the Usos, and between those two, the Undisputed Era are better. Worst, I almost gave it to Slater and Rhino, but then I realized how few matches the Clones actually wrestled this year. And as bad as a tag team like Braun Strowman and Nicholas is, it's a gimmick joke for one night, whereas the Colognes are supposed to be an actual tag team. And just, they need to leave and work at their own promotion. Those are my best, those are my worst. Who you guys got?
This was a terrible year for tag team wrestling, on the main roster at the very least.
Yes.
So, but like some honorable mentions for the best before I say what my one was. The Bar have been like a really like they say they are the Bar. They are like the stability for the both tag team divisions this year. They're just like a really solid heel tag team. Both the New Day and the Usos, as per usual, just been putting on great matches. Or anytime they put up against each other or with other people, so they both deserve credit as well. But the best is the Undisputed Era. Like, the gimmick is great. They're all four of them have got a great amount of charisma. I can't think of a bad match they've had in a tag team format this year at all. Like, particularly, I mean, obviously all of the Undisputed Era as a faction is great, but the particular real focus has to go to Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong. Even though Cole is their most charismatic leader, like they have been like so fantastic in the ring, both of those two. Like, it's the best work I've ever seen of Roderick Strong's career. Kyle O'Reilly, I always knew was great, but he reaches new levels of greatness in NXT, which you can't usually say of people that are coming from the independent circuit. But he just looks like one of the best wrestlers in the world every time I see him.
He's even getting better at playing that title belt.
Yeah, that's why I just wanted to hold that title for all the time, or at least he always has to have a title, so he does the air guitar stuff.
It's ridiculous. I hated it at the first, but then I was like, I'm supposed to hate it, okay, you know.
Yeah, it's supposed to be douchey. That's what's great about it. But like, I'd also like to give credit both to Mustache Mountain and the Brit and Bruisers, because like it takes two to tango, to say, or in this case four to tango, and they had some fantastic tag team matches with the Undisputed Era as well this year. But the Undisputed Era are the constant. So they deserve to have the number one spot all for themselves. Worst, there's so many, and I don't want to come across as like just picking on the women on this side of things, but a lot of the bad tag teams this year I thought were women based, which is weird in an era where they're trying to bring in the tag team championships, or at least teasing that they're going to be doing it. I thought the Iconics were terrible this year. They really, really annoyed me so much. But I know it's the point of thing they're meant to be annoying with the promos, but it's more like, oh, the Iconics coming out, I'll just mute this for a while, or I'll just go away for a bit before I come back or whatever. Just But the worst one for me is Nia Jax and Tamina. I don't think you could probably put two worst women's wrestlers on the main roster together and call it a tag team. It's like, yeah, they both got Samoan heritage, so we'll just put them together. And usually, at least if you have like a tag team where one of them is pretty bad in the ring, the other one tries to carry the load, and the other one's like the gimmick or the bit more charismatic. This one, neither one has really good charisma, and they both suck in the ring. So you're just not going to get any sort of good matches or good entertainment value out of them. So yeah, I'd go with Jackson Tamina.
So I'm going to start with worst. And shame on you, Tony, for dignifying this shit and putting it on the list with Braun Strowman and Nicholas. I don't understand why you continue to give me a reason to talk about this.
They're tag team champions.
No, it's not right. It's dead wrong. And the only other honorable mention I could even give on the worst side is the Lucha House Party for the stupidity that was Lucha House Rules. They're not doing a good Lucha thing. They're not even doing a good thing. It's terrible. It needs to stop. Now then, with that out of my system, the Undisputed Era are the greatest thing going in wrestling today. Period, bar none. Since we only talk about WWE, I can't mention the Young Bucks, but you know who I can mention? Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, and Roderick Strong. They are incredible. I love everything they do. I hope they never split up. I'm worried for when they get called up. They're the best. They are the bar. They are everything.
I thought you said they were with bar none.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's it.
So how can they be the bar if it's bar none?
The best thing of the year. They're just fantastic. And I couldn't decide between the Britt Ambrosers match or the Mustache Mountain matches as to which I liked more from them. But they are incredible.
It's funny because like we've all voted for them, so it is really undisputed that they are the best tag team.
Yeah, there you go.
In Dota. But I'd also, it doesn't actually mention on the awards list, but there was also the Mixed Match Challenge tag teams as well.
Oh, so yeah.
You might want to give, if there's only like one that I'd give an honorable mention to for best, it would be the Fabulous Truth. Just because the entire storyline surrounding Carmella and R-Truth this year has been really fun. So just a little nod to them as well. They're actually a really good mixed tag team.
I'd actually give the nod in that case to Strowman and Bliss because they were a tolerable episode of Ride Along. They were funny in the Mixed Match Challenge, and they even brought them back for the Money in the Bank when everybody was fighting. And I think Alexa just started screaming and said it doesn't matter because Braun Strowman is going to kill them all or something like that. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the Mixed Match Challenge teams. But then again, that list would be so long because it would be like, all right, there's Alexa and Braun. I mean, Ember and Braun. I mean, Ember and Kurt Hawkins. And like, they have to keep changing those all up. But
it's understandable to leave it out.
Yeah,
I just thought at least with the Carmella R-Truth, it was just an unintentional storyline that built up for the entire. Well, it was intentional to start with them just like wanting to fight each other, and then it actually led up to them winning the Mixed Match Challenge, even though that was clearly not what they wanted to do in the first place. But still,
yeah, I definitely need to add that in there. And that's on my notes for next year because I got a feeling they're probably going to do another one of those tournaments next year, and that way I won't forget about it. So we have the best and the worst heel, and I am certainly not breaking down the options because I didn't even write them all down because I figured, you know what, there's way too many goddamn heels, especially because it's like Big Show was temporarily a heel this year. Dana Brooke was a heel and a babyface 1,000 times, so on and so forth. I will give a shout out real quick to somebody that I know that nobody's going to pick, but it's Baron Corbin. I think that he was in a situation where he was given kind of some bad stuff to do, but I kind of liked the Constable Corbin thing, so I know nobody's going to pick him. I'm not picking him, but a little bit of a shout out there. Also, Alexa Bliss gets a shout out to me because of her role, particularly at the beginning of the year, you know, making fun of Nia Jax and stuff. Like, that was a good standard heel of just like the pretty bitchy cheerleader type is making fun of the fat girl type thing, and she pulled that off really well. But it's really between three options to me. I have a pick between them. I know which one I'm going with, but I could see a case being made for Shayna Baszler, the Undisputed Era, and my pick, which is Tommaso Ciampa. So before I get into the worst and just going around that, I want to kind of stick with the best heels right here and see, do you guys have anything other than Baszler, Ciampa, and Undisputed Era?
In terms of like honorable mentions and stuff like that, I've got, like you say, Alexa Bliss for the work with Nia Jax earlier in the year. I thought I always wanted to put like just Elias in it just for that one segment with Kevin Owens because they got the most amount of heat of pretty much anything this year. Daniel Bryan as well for his work in recent months, but I think that was just a little bit like too short of a time period. And Samoa Joe for the AJ Styles Wendy stuff. But the main two it came down to for me was Tommaso Ciampa and Shayna Baszler. And I think I'm going to go with Shayna Baszler because even though Tommaso Ciampa is great and the heat that he gets generated, like being booed down to the ring when he didn't have an entrance theme was fantastic. I love the heel work Shayna Baszler does bell to bell. Like just the stomping on the arm, the twisting, the ligaments, the fact that she just seems to take a lot of pleasure in bullying people in the ring. And she knows that she's great and she intimidates herself. And she, like, the one thing that really went over the top for me was when she lost the NXT Women's Championship to Kairi Sane. And then she basically said, Kairi didn't beat me, I lost. I think that's such a dick thing to say. Because, like, oh, it's like, it's still admitting that, like, you lost on the night and stuff like that. But it's basically saying, oh, this person can't beat me. I can only lose the championship. This person's not good enough to beat me. I'll just lose my title. So I just love that aspect of the character for this year. So I'm going to go with Baszler.
For me, for best, it came down to Undisputed Era and Ciampa, and only because Ciampa got legitimate, fuck you and
You're the
booing,
devil.
You're the devil, and the Undisputed Era were more on the cool heel side where they were actually getting cheered for a lot of their stuff. I'm going with Ciampa as the best heel of the year.
I've been writing up a lot of like end of the year recap type things, and I keep mentioning this in different articles and everything. So you'll see this if you check out like your wrestling news, Bleacher Report, so on and so forth. But Tommaso Ciampa is the only one that he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He achieved all of his goals. He is the top of the food chain in NXT. And everything that he keeps saying keeps coming true. Like, he's saying, the only way to get to the top is to follow my path. And what's happened with Johnny Gargano? He turned his mortal enemy, the top babyface of the whole brand, into another villain just because of his association with him and stuff. Like, that's pretty damn good to be able to do that. Ciampa's starting off the year as the dude who's going to lose to Johnny Gargano to finish this story, and he's ending the year as the champion, and who knows when he's going to drop that title. That's awesome. But really, shout outs to Shayna Baszler and everything too. So a couple good heels when it comes to that. So let's do the flip side. Let's do let's go with the worst side of things here. And I think I am gonna save this one for Callum to talk about. But my honorable mention is Tamina. Is that your pick?
No.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I judge this thing based on their ability to do the heel, and Tamina's never getting cheered, so it's not. It may just be because she sucks and she's got no personality, but the fact is she's going to be a heel. It has to be and it's not obviously. It's just the way that I've interpreted it. It's just somebody who is a heel but doesn't get the right reaction, or is a heel for the wrong reasons.
That's how I interpreted it as well, and because of that, I picked Braun Strowman. I thought the heel turn killed him. I think, I'll say my honorable mention, I think this is the one Callum is going to go for, Becky Lynch, because they tried to turn her heel forcefully and it just didn't happen. But for me, that Braun Strowman thing killed all of his momentum and took him from maybe he can be the top babyface on Raw to I really don't want to see this guy be the top babyface on Raw.
I'm not going to go for Becky Lynch. I would say one of my honorable mentions was the Undisputed Era, because even though they're heels, they get cheered a lot, and that's not what a heel should be doing. I mean, they still get enough of a heat react. I didn't actually go for them because they get enough of a heelish reaction during matches when they're fighting the baby faces. And if the baby faces are good, and they usually are in NXT, then it works. But I think as soon as they cut to the main roster and they're fighting Lucha House Party, they're going to be cheered all the way because who the fuck cares about Lucha House Party? So, but I decided to go with, as my worst one, the beating. Because they were just, it's just such the ass backwards way of booking a babyface or booking a heel team. It's a team of underdogs that get like fun and, well, not fun, but like just like fluky or just entertaining victories against people that should be beating them quite often. It's like, oh wow, the plucky underdogs. Definitely need to boo them. It's like, yeah, these guys were just coming from nowhere after like breaking away from the Miz and being left in the wilderness, and they managed to build themselves up to being the Raw Tag Team Champions. And yet we were still supposed to boo them because Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt were the champions at the time. It's like, it makes absolutely no sense to me. It was just a really poor, an instance of like WWE not knowing that this was a babyface act that they were trying to do as a heel.
See, I went with the Riot Squad because to me, I don't buy them being anything. I look at the three of them and I say they're playing wrestler. And when they do stuff like, the whole storyline was built around the idea of, we're going to break Natty's glasses and then leave and have this match be a no contest because she's crying because of the glasses that we didn't set up ahead of time and everything. That's poor writing, partially, but the Riot Squad has done a lot of stupid shit this year of just being like, we're hanging out backstage and we're going to knock over somebody's papers and then be all like, aren't we fucking dastardly? And it's like, you're stupid. This is lame. This isn't... There have been so many people that have done, like, I'm crazy, I'm a lunatic, I'm like a wild child nutcase type thing, and every single person has done it better than the Riot Squad. I don't want to boo them because I don't buy them as actually being bad people. I buy them as Ruby Riott is trying her damnedest to try to be something different, but she really isn't, which is like anybody that's, shops at Hot Topic type of thing. Liv Morgan has no idea what to do with her career, and she's just like, fuck it, I'll go with whatever. And Sarah Logan's like, I'd rather be a country girl or Crazy Mary Dobson or a Viking, but fuck it, I guess if I'm going to be a part of this group, I'll be like the tough Southern Riot person. And it's just like, none of this translates to me. I can't wait for them to split this team up. I think it's just terrible. And they almost got my my worst tag team of the year, but ugh.
I was surprised they didn't get your worst tag team of the year, just knowing how much you dislike them.
They just suck so bad. But it's like they have the Colognes and Slater and Rhino and stuff, and at least the Riot Squad puts on better matches than the Colognes do.
I would also just want to put out like an honorable mention for worst heel, Nia Jax. You shouldn't be given any sort of credit for turning heel because you are shit at your job.
That's a good point. Let's go to the baby faces. This is, the heroes, the good people, the ones that we're supposed to cheer for, and so on and so forth like that. So when it comes to the worst of the baby faces, it's like, well, who are you supposed to cheer for that you're not cheering for? And maybe everybody agrees with me on this one, maybe not. I went with Bobby Lashley.
It's
a good pick.
That's a really good one.
Not mine, though.
Not mine either.
Who you guys have for worst?
What do you want to give your reasons for Lashley, other than the obvious?
His fucking main storyline that was supposed to convince us that we weren't like. All right, let's put it this way: you bring Bobby Lashley back. He's somebody who's already been on the roster. He's got a built-in level of some people are going to go, hey, look at that, Bobby Lashley. I remember his match against so and so and whatever. I never really liked Bobby Lashley to begin with, but it could have worked, and it didn't. And their answer to it was to convince people that they should cheer for him, that he's a really nice guy. Let's have him explain what his sisters were like and get him in a feud with Sami Zayn about his sisters. That was just the death knell. And Bobby Lashley as a heel, I'm okay with. Babyface, no reason to cheer this dude. He's just a guy. Honorable mention to Charlotte Flair, though, because if you are supposed to be the one that people cheer for, you're getting your ass beat, and people are enjoying that, and the answer to it is to just kind of make you a heel because you're not getting over as babyface, then you're not doing your job. You guys have for the worst, though. I was thinking Bobby Lashley would be a potential pick for all three.
So, Lashley is a good pick, and this is gonna probably be weird, but I don't think we can forget Roman Reigns. Like, they tried so hard, and
there's a valid argument here.
Unfortunately, the only thing that got Roman over was the fact that he's legitimately facing a life-threatening disease, and that's the only time you got people to chant, yay Roman, thank you Roman, and it sucks because I like Roman Reigns, but if he was as over as he should have been, WrestleMania wouldn't have been so difficult, So that's my worst babyface.
There's a lot of options. Lashley obviously is high up there. Shane McMahon was high up there for a while before with the best in the world stuff as well. People like Noah Jose, who no one cares about, and Bobby Roode as well. But I'm gonna just go with the Lucha House Party because babyfaces should not be in a handicap situation where they have the multiple men on their side.
Agreed. Fuck them.
It's partially their. I mean, it's partially their fault because nobody fucking cares about either one of those three. Like Kalisto's had so many second chances, and he's just now they have Rey Mysterio back. It just feels like even more of like a really shitty printed out copy where like half the stuff is missing, like the charisma and the like personality and any sort of connection with the fans. And
he was a big deal, Kalisto, on the independent circuit, and it never clicked.
All of them are. Grand Metalik was huge on the independent circuit. He's a former he used to, I can't remember exactly what role, but I think he's wrestled places like in like New Japan and across Mexico and stuff like that. They're all really big deals in Mexico, but they're just like there's just nothing on the main roster because they're just a gimmick of Mexican luchadors.
Well, Grand Metalik might be leaving.
Yeah, I
he tweeted something about that recently. He polled people saying, "Should I go to CMLL? Should I go whatever? Not should I stick with WWE?"
Yeah. I don't blame him. It's just a case of like, just once you have the gimmick of obviously just being masked wrestlers and coming out with a pinata, just like
the pinata thing.
Yeah, it's just what next? Are you just going to go full Mexicals with them and have them drive down on lawnmowers at the start of the thing as well?
You know what really bugged me about the pinata? They did something recently where it was like, what do I want for Christmas or something?
A pinata.
And it was like, I'll have a pinata. I'll have a bigger pinata. I'll have an even bigger pinata. And it was like...
You always have a pinata. Get something that you don't have already.
First off, it's like, that. It just kind of strikes me as like, somebody wrote that might have a twinge of racism to them. Like... the kind of thing where it's like, what would they want? I don't know, fucking tacos and pinatas and whatever. And it's just like, really? That's what we're going with here, I don't like it. Let's go with the best baby faces because, man, I had a lot of people on this list. And for instance, even somebody like I know that we're not going to pick, but like Dakota Kai, for instance, is like she's a good baby face this year. She really was sympathetic when she was getting her ass beat by Shayna Baszler. She was kind of like the new Bayley in a lot of different ways. People love her, little kids love her, whatever. And Kairi Sane's fun, and R-Truth is fun around, and there's a lot of different people like that. I will make one preface kind of thing here. No, I'm not picking Becky Lynch, and I know people are going to go, it has to be Becky Lynch. What the hell? To me, the Becky Lynch thing is a weird anomaly in a lot of different ways, and I'll get into it if anybody picks Becky Lynch. But for the most part, to me, this came down to Braun Strowman and Mustafa Ali. Because as much as I wanted to give it to Daniel Bryan, he wasn't as over in the ways that he was before. As much as I wanted to give it to Seth Rollins, people are kind of losing a little bit of that. And as much as I wanted to give it to Johnny Gargano, he ended up turning tweener, turning heel. But Mustafa Ali is probably my pick because as Braun Strowman, he was that guy at the beginning of the year, and then they fucked it all up with that heel turn. Mustafa Ali, on the other hand, he started off this year as equal, if not above, Cedric Alexander as far as the top babyface on 205 Live. Earned this reputation of the heart and soul of 205 Live, and now he's on SmackDown, and he's starting to get over in a 2-week span. This guy's like bleeding babyface through and through. He's a former cop who is always talking about like following your dreams. He is talking about making a good representation of his culture, so people aren't like, why isn't this guy doing the Middle Eastern gimmick type of thing and stuff? He checks off all the boxes. So big fan of a lot of people like Becky and Gargano and all that, but I'm going Mustafa Ali. It might be a little bit of an outsider pick, but that's who I'm going with. So tell me how you guys are picking Becky Lynch.
I'm not. I don't know if
Yeah, I'm not
Callum
picking
is.
Becky Lynch either. No.
Oh, thank God, because I was to me, Becky
She was
Lynch.
she was on my list, but I'd not pick
She's the type of like she's this easy pick that I think people are forgetting that the entire whole chunk of this year she was just not working out well, and then they tried to make her heel, and the only reason she's a babyface is because the fans rejected the heel turn, and WWE still doesn't want to fully make her a babyface in a lot of different ways. So I'm glad you guys aren't picking her. Who you guys picking though?
Well, I'll just go through like my thought process of it. I don't think you really should be discounted about Johnny Gargano for this year because even though he has turned heel, when he was the top babyface in NXT, he was just the biggest babyface, like the most beloved guy in the entire promotion. Yeah, and I think at his zenith, he was more of a bigger babyface than anybody else this entire year has been. Almost went with Seth Rollins, but I think there have been too many notable instances this year of the crowds turning on him in matches. Whether it's just they don't think that the match he's putting on is the right way of doing it, or there's so many other factors into it. I just think that when the crowd are really behind him and he's on fire, then it's about as good as it gets on the main roster. But it's every now and again it just completely whines, and that's partly on him as much as it's on the fans as well. So I'm going to go as my best babyface, Kairi Sane. I think that she's like a really like peppy, energetic, likable. Like obviously just like a very sweet person with a very like sweet and determined personality. But then she also just kicks ass in the ring, and she's just so great at that side of things. So she can really just flip between two of them, and the entrance is so like inspirational and uplifting, and like having a championship in a chest of gold is just such a sweet and cute touch to the overall package. And I was really close to like my other like really close ones were a lot of like the women in NXT. I thought both Toni Storm and Nikki Cross were close as well, because Toni Storm just comes across like this really cool rocker chick, and Nikki Cross is just so popular in NXT. And I'm hoping that it translates well onto the main roster. You never know how they buried Sanity over the last like few months, whatever. But she has a very like the charisma that she exudes through her gimmick is really strong. So I hope she does get an opportunity. But overall, I think Kairi Sane is the best babyface.
So I'll just say really quick, the reason I'm not picking Becky Lynch is even though she's super over right now, it's December 22nd as of this recording, and she's just getting there now. For the majority of the year, Becky Lynch was an afterthought. It sucks to say, but she was. I am going with Seth Rollins, and there's a good argument that can be made of the crowd is starting to turn on him a little bit, but I think he's had a banner year, and as far as like main roster pops, even bigger than Daniel Bryan, who should have been if you think about his story, the biggest babyface. He really wasn't. And Seth Rollins, when he comes out and the place is chanting "Burn it down," they're really into him. And I think if they do it right, they can have a genuine babyface top star on their hands in 2019. And I'm going with Rollins.
Let's move over to the best and worst overall female superstar of the year. Again, I'm not going to run down everybody, but it's anybody who has been a part of WWE, NXT, NXT UK.
Wait. Did we do the worst face?
Yep.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I had Bobby Lashley and...
Yeah, I had Lucha House Party and you had somebody.
Did I not do?
Did you not do the worst babyface?
I think you did. Didn't you? Who did you have?
I honestly don't remember.
You had Strowman.
Yeah, because he had gotten...
I had him down for the worst heel.
Oh, no, he was the worst heel. Yeah, who was your worst babyface? How did we forget that already?
Yeah.
Yeah, wait a minute. Hold on.
It was your fault. We had opportunities to say it.
Well,
I got a feeling that you said
Roman.
it.
I said Roman.
Roman, that's what it was. Yeah,
I did.
That's weird.
Oh yeah, the cancer patient. Yeah, you decided to say he was really bad at his job.
Well, hold on a minute. Hold on. He wasn't cheered. Move on.
Let's go with the best and the worst female superstar. Again, as I mentioned, you could even throw in the people like the Mae Young Classic competitors, because even though they weren't signed to the company, they still were featured people, and that counts. Why not? I won't. You can check the list on the website. I'm not fucking naming all of them. And this also includes the 3 people that had been released. Only 3 women had been released this year, from my calculations, which were Abby Lath, Sage Beckett, and Zeta. So maybe if you like them a whole lot, or you hated them a whole lot, and you want to put them in worst, whatever. I will shout out my honorable mentions for the worst were Dana Brooke, Reina Gonzalez, Zeuxis, Nia Jax, and Brie Bella. But I went with Tamina Snuka, and I got a feeling that Callum might be good with that one. So, Callum, you wanna go with that one?
Well, I've to say some honorable mentions as well, like Dana Brooke, like you said, Brie Bella. Not echoing a lot of what you said. Dana Brooke, Brie Bella, Nia Jax, Vanessa Bourne, I think, is not particularly good. Billie Kay, I think, has had a poor year. And also one that's going to get me a lot of hate, but I'm going to say it anyway. Candice LeRae sucked this year. Like, as a character, and she's not prominent at all in NXT. She's really an afterthought at this point. Like, I was thinking, like, by this time this year, she would either be challenging or be in the title picture, and she's just nowhere at the moment. Maybe that will change in 2019, but I think 2018, she really just failed to tick many boxes. But the worst is obviously Tamina Snuka, because she's been doing this job, like I said, for 10 years at this point, and she's no better than anybody on the entire roster. Like, Nia Jax is bad, but you can have the excuse that Nia Jax was put onto the main roster too soon, and she's only been doing this for 3 or 4 years. But when you've been doing it for as long as Tamina has, and the fact that she came from a wrestling background and a wrestling family, the fact that she's so bad is just... There's pretty no excuse for it at this point, other than the fact that she never should have gotten into the ring in the first place.
Well, for me, worst, let me just say I agree with you 100% on Candice. She has not had any kind of standout moment this year. It's ironic for a woman who was very heavy on the wrestling and the independents. Her entire contribution this year was being the wife of Johnny Gargano, which hopefully they rectify that quickly in 2019. But my worst, Dana Brooke. I can see what you guys would say to me now, but it's like they've made a joke out of how irrelevant Dana is. At least when Tamina's around, she's usually in a bodyguard role, and they try to do something. But with Dana, it's like, look at how much she sucks, And I don't get it. It's not fun for me to watch. She's definitely my pick for the worst.
Isn't that like a shame that this year Dana Brooke was like, we can talk a whole lot about how awful she was, yet we reached a point where we were all just kind of like, God, I feel bad for her. Like, that
Yeah.
women's battle royal was the real moment of this year that I was like, man, I feel so bad for her. She needs to just leave, because they had announced every single person on that roster as being like, well, all the women are going to be a part of it. This one and 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 this one. And they didn't announce Dana. And it was like, they don't even consider her a part of the roster. That's sad. But then again, when she goes out there and she does stuff like the statistician thing, it's like, well, she sucks. So, you know. As far as the best side of things, though, this is where I make up a little bit of what I had for one of the previous categories, where I had said that I couldn't quite pick Ronda Rousey for the best newcomer. I'm picking her for the best female superstar of the year. I am a big fan of Alexa Bliss, but she didn't have the best year this year in comparison to the year before. I still really like Becky Lynch a lot, but there were problems along the way. Ronda Rousey, though, Ronda came in as somebody who had a ton of weight on her shoulders, and she pulled it off. She has upgraded the division. She has had one of the best championship kind of reigns. Ronda's the best, as far as I'm concerned.
There's so many good options this year, which is obviously a very good thing to say. Ronda Rousey is definitely high up on the list for me. Just has made a seamless transition into professional wrestling. Charlotte Flair, I think, has had a fantastic year in ring wise, and I know she occasionally does, like in TV matches, she does like phone it in a little bit and it's a little bit clunky. But when it's a big match situation, she really knows how to like put a really good match together. And like from like an NXT and Mae Young Classic standpoint, Kairi Sane, Mako Satomura, Toni Storm, Nikki Cross, Bianca Belair are all great. And another shout out to Ruby Riott as well, because she's been a very like good foundation for a lot of anything that's happened in the Raw division this year. But for me, the top two came down to Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch. And I don't want to like just presuppose what Rob's going to pick, but if Rob picks who I think he's going to pick, then I think I'll just go with Shayna Baszler, because I think she's just like the top of NXT's women's division. She's the linchpin of the entire division almost for me. I mean, obviously Ciampa does a great job in his side of things, and people like Aleister Black as well, but Shayna Baszler is so good at her role. And even though the matches haven't been a standout as some people like in the Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and some matches in the Mae Young Classic, she hasn't had that kind of match just yet, but I think her feuds with both Ember Moon and Kairi Sane were fantastic this year. And she's just such a great, vicious, conniving, evil heel. And I can't wait for... I can't wait for her to come onto the main roster. I can't wait for her to see what she does in 2019. And hopefully they don't fuck her over on the main roster like they do with 90% of the people that come up.
I don't know why Callum thinks that I would not just echo what he just said, but Shayna Baszler owned this year. Again, Becky Lynch, if they keep it going with her, she's got 2019 on lock. But Shayna Baszler this year was the most consistent of any of the female talent across all three brands. And I thought about giving it to Charlotte, but Charlotte kind of dipped in the middle of the year. I thought about, Becky, but if I give it to Becky, it's just saying, hey, the last month and a half has been great. And really, you can't argue with Shayna Baszler with her work with Ember Moon and her work with Kairi Sane. It's just been fantastic. And God, I'm nervous for her on the main roster. There's only so long you can keep her with that four horsewomen. And then once that goes, I just hope that it's not like she's the hired assassin for the newly heel-turned Stephanie McMahon. There's so much good that you can do with her, and I hope it continues in 2019.
So now we have to go over to The men's side of things, the best and the worst male superstar, even more names to pick from, I should say, not pick for. Well, pick four, yeah. I'll go, though, technically we're picking two. I don't know. My brain's fried. So, again, this is the main roster, the NXT roster, NXT UK, just, there's tons and tons of different things that you can go in when it comes to this. Performance Center, blah, blah, blah. My worst, shout out to a couple different people. The Colognes, I had mentioned that, they're my worst tag team, so they should be in my worst potential. One of my worst is Kona Reeves. He was not good. And a little kind of extra special shout out, I guess, to Big Cass and Enzo for being really, really bad in a lot of different ways. But I have to give my worst to Brock Lesnar because he just was a bane on this whole thing. And if Brock Lesnar wasn't around this year, the whole year would have been significantly better. Like, if Brock would have been injured, all of 2018 would have been better. His presence alone fucked this year up. So I kind of, in principle alone, I can't give it to anybody other than Brock for the worst, for male.
So
let's stick with the worst. Yeah, let's go around here. What do you guys have?
So,
Somebody going to pick like Sam Gradwell or something?
I unfortunately, there's probably people to choose from in NXT UK. Probably the one that would stand up the most to me from NXT UK is Wolfgang.
That's what I was gonna go with.
But is that your actual pick?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. I almost don't want to waste such a category on somebody like Wolfgang, but he's definitely up there because God, he's pointless. But go on.
But I think there's obviously a lot of other options. Brock Lesnar definitely crossed my mind, but I'm not as like a hater of Brock Lesnar as Tony is, and it's understandable what Tony is, but just like it's not really. I've got other fish to fry in this category. Like honorable mention to me, Bobby Lashley has been a tremendous disappointment. Dean Ambrose, since coming back, has not looked the same. But he was only around for like a short period of time, so maybe 2019 will be even worse for him. But you never know. Shane McMahon, anytime that he's wrestled, is terrible. Jinder, obviously. And I think it came down to me whether I was going to go for someone big who's had a very bad year, or someone who's small and is really like just not done, and he's just like the worst of the worst. It depends on how perspective I'm taking this, and like the things with the overall superstar that we do later on and along those lines. But two that came very, very close to me for getting worst male: John Cena and The Undertaker. Because I think they've had really poor in-ring experiences. Undertaker shouldn't be wrestling anymore, and John Cena has phoned it in so much any time that he has appeared. But I'm going to go Kona Reeves because I just think for NXT that usually delivers so much good stuff, the fact that they have given this guy this gimmick, like I just think if I was to just craft a totem pole of all the guys in WWE, like NXT UK, whatever, he would be like propping up the entire list of them because he's got a gimmick that doesn't work for him. He's not really that impressive in the ring. He's got no sign of any sort of upward momentum. I just think he's just wrong in a sense. Like they shouldn't get rid of him, but they should need to give him just a completely different persona. So yeah, that's my worst.
So you mentioned three names there that were high up on my list, and like you said, it's whether or not you want to just attack somebody who's completely been inconsequential like Wolfgang, or somebody who is big and has had a terrible year. Even though he's been very upfront about the fact that he's moving away from the industry, I'm gonna go with John Cena. Because just because you're moving away from the industry, I don't think it gives you the go-ahead to just take whatever few appearances you have left and do nothing. You know what I mean? Like, WrestleMania should have meant something, and that is not on The Undertaker, because The Undertaker, for what he's done this year, he's looked as good as he can. John Cena has been a big disappointment. really for the last couple of years, but this year really stood out as, okay, I can no longer expect for you to come in and boost the show. You're already, you haven't even gone full time yet, and you're already taking away from it every time you show up. So for
Isn't
me,
it kind of weird he sort of aged 10 years in the past too?
yeah, what is that?
Like, at the beginning of 2017, he was fine. And then this year, he comes off as like when, you would see like Roddy Piper pop up or something.
He's just doing the like the 5 moves of doom. He's just getting like his shit in, no more, no less, because he's now a Hollywood. Well, maybe not Hollywood, but just like he's a significant actor now, and that's his thing. So he can only get away with doing so much. Probably they probably just won't allow him to. I don't know whether it's a case of like them not allowing him or him not wanting to do that stuff because he knows where the real money is now, and he knows where his real future lies.
Yeah.
But here's a guy who last year, in my opinion, had the match of the year at the Royal Rumble, did the dumb thing with the Bellas, and then downhill because of that Baron Corbin feud, and then just nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why 2018 John Cena has been like, really, I think you guys hit it on the head, like a Roddy Piper or almost, Hulk Hogan 2005 level phoning it in, and I don't see a reason for that. So John Cena is my worst performer of the year.
As far as the men goes.
Yes, as far as the men go.
So on the best side of things, I think a lot of people deserve credit. Stop me if your pick is my honorable mentions, but I've got Adam Cole as an honorable mention. Braun Strowman. Mustafa Ali. Ricochet. And my other honorable mention is Velveteen Dream. But this was one of my ties. And I mentioned before that this was going to be brought up quite a bit, and it has been brought up quite a bit, but Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, as a unit together, they brought the best out of everything that was happening. They put on the best matches, they had the best story, and Aleister Black was a part of that too, but it's really Gargano and Ciampa. And I kind of couldn't have one without the other.
I don't think. Well, obviously, all the ones you mentioned are on my list in terms of like honorable mentions and stuff. Ciampa and Gargano is hard to kind of ignore for the year they've had. If I was to give an edge over one of them, I'd probably give it to Ciampa over Gargano, just because he has held the championship as well. If you want to give it like a little bit of a kayfabe edge to it, that Ciampa has been on top of the mountain, whereas Gargano's obviously been the main babyface, but never actually ended up capturing the gold, despite the numerous opportunities he got. Velveteen Dream is high up on there. Seth Rollins needs to be like the honorable mention for me. Daniel Bryan, especially in recent months. Samoa Joe has been great. I'd want to give shout outs to like Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne, and Zach Gibson on the UK side of things, because I think they're all extremely talented. And also a big shout out to R-Truth, who's just come out back from nowhere like this year to really just be a very entertaining and interesting part of all the shows on SmackDown. In terms of like when it came down to like just a big choice for me, I think I have to go with AJ Styles. I just think to hold the championship, the WWE championship, for as long as he did, and you can say all the stuff like these feuds weren't that great, or like some of the matches didn't live up to the expectations, but it was just like, as a standard bearer, a guy that held the most coveted title, whether they're pushing the Universal title, whatever, or anything along those lines, but the title that bears the name of the brand and puts him like holding it for over a year, just cementing his entire legacy as like a guy that many people thought would never ever make it to WWE, but is now one of its biggest stars. I think 2018 will probably go down as like the legacy year of AJ Styles, like the year that he achieved legendary status beyond everything else. He went from
And
just being like one of the top names in the world to being a bona fide Hall of Fame legend.
and I really hate to piggyback off of what Callum said, but yeah, I'm going AJ Styles as well. Seth Rollins had a banner year, yes. You can argue a lot of the NXT names. Adam Cole's one of my favorites. Velveteen Dream as well. And yes, Gargano and Ciampa did deliver the most solid storyline. But AJ Styles, for everything he's been given, was the anchor of SmackDown from beginning to end of the year. He won the title in December of 2017 and lost it a little bit over a year later. And he's been doing so well in the ring. Yes, the feuds because of what they gave him with, the low blows and the Wendy stuff. But AJ Styles did it. AJ Styles was never supposed to be in the position he's in. And now I think he's a guy that they can't wait to put over on the Raw side to really kick up the Monday Night Raw product. And I think AJ Styles, the only thing he has left to do is headline WrestleMania. But I think AJ Styles has been the man in 2018, and it's impossible to deny that. If you look at the 365 and how well that shows everything he's done. He got the cover of the video game and did a lot of work for them. I think AJ is far and away the best superstar of the year. Also Kenny Omega, but we don't talk about New Japan.
Well, that kind of takes us into the superstar of the year, because that's all the men and women all together. Who is the best? Who is the worst? And I mean, we pretty much ran down every reason why we would talk about these people, but so that's why I'm just going to cut right to the chase. To me, my honorable mention was Ronda Rousey, because she was my best female superstar of the year, but my best of all was Gargano Ciampa being tied for the same reasons that I've been talking over and over again, so I don't need to repeat it, but Gargano and Ciampa just edged out Ronda Rousey to me. Just overall ring quality, overall mic quality, overall everything. That was the best. They just combined to be the best. DIY. Did you guys go with AJ Styles as the best superstar of the year?
Yeah, I am, because I think again, not to repeat what I just said, but in 2019, he's a guy who at least deserves a chance to headline this upcoming WrestleMania. He won't do it, but he deserves a chance.
I mean, part of me was going to try and not much make this a joke, but try and use the overall award to just give it to somebody who I just absolutely love. And even though he's not the most prominently placed on the roster, he's still like a great wrestler and everything like that. But I really wanted to give it to Kyle O'Reilly, because it's just like I watch him and I just think, this is what I want to see all the time. I just want to like, if he was like every single match on a card, I'd probably still have a huge amount of fun. But when I give like the best overall, I try and go with the assumption of like, what is the year 2018 like? If I look back in the year 2018, who is the superstar that will stand out most in my mind? And there were a lot of big choices in the fact that like Becky Lynch was a huge potential one for me, Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler, AJ Styles. But I'm going to go with, if I look back and say 2018 belonged to Tommaso Ciampa. And I'm going to say that the sense of like, even though I'm not chosen him for the best male of the year, I think for just a guy that probably would always think like, oh yeah, he'll be like a solid mid-card guy in WWE, maybe one day, maybe he'll be in the Cruiserweight division or something along those lines. To just be the top guy in arguably developmental promotion, but still just in developmental promotion in NXT, and be killing it on all levels. Tommaso Ciampa, this is his year, and he should revel in that fact.
So, admittedly, I am going to have somewhat of a little bit of a cop-out answer when it comes to the worst superstar of the year, because if you put a gun to my head and you say you have to pick based off of, your own set of rules and stuff like that, it's Brock Lesnar. However, I really want to just say the worst superstar of the year is Vince McMahon. Because fuck you for the way that this year went down, like, in so many different ways. I really hate it because when Vince does something good, he does something so good. Yet when he does bad stuff, good lord, is it the worst. And as a character, I can't say Vince McMahon was the worst. So, technically speaking, he can't be the worst superstar of the year like that, but I really want to just give that to him. So instead, by proxy, I default have to go to Brock Lesnar. Because to me, he embodies everything that's worst about this year. The idea of dragging storylines out, which carried on with AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe, and ignoring the fans, like the Becky Lynch stuff and the Braun Strowman stuff and the Roman Reigns stuff, having poor matches because he had one good match this entire year and that was it. And the only reason he had that match that was decent was because it was like, well, I haven't done anything else this fucking year. There is nothing positive from Brock Lesnar this year. He ruined a championship. He ruined, now at this point, 2 full years worth of the Monday Night Raw side of things. It's Brock Lesnar to me. But that's with the caveat that Vince McMahon gets that award too.
Boy, this is hard. Because there's so many ways to go with this. You can say, I can give a cop-out and say, well, I just really turn the TV off every time they put Dana Brooke in the ring. Or, you know, Nia Jax really turned the corner for me, and I just have gotten to the point where I just don't like seeing her. But really, when I think about it, the worst superstar of the year, I unfortunately have to side with Tony. Because as much as I like Brock Lesnar, I'm a guy who, Tony can't say this, but Callum can, you know, we grew up watching Brock when Brock was really, really good. And Brock has just become this dead weight across all of the major shows whenever it's time to start caring again, like WrestleMania or SummerSlam or Survivor Series. And honorable mention goes to Kane because he just looked awful this year. But I'm going Brock Lesnar because I think Brock Lesnar had the most consequence on everything this year.
Now, I should be giving the worst overall to Tamina Snuka.
Yeah.
Because in every category, she's the worst. The dirt worst. But I've shouted on her a lot this podcast. And maybe it's the spirit of the season making me feel generous. But if I'm going to say like the worst overall this year, someone who just didn't deliver on any level. And he got away with it on the male side of things. But I'm not going to let him get away with it overall. John Cena, fuck you. Worst year ever.
That lightning fist.
Yeah. Fuck that lightning fist. Take that lightning fist and shove it up your ass.
This is serious. I want John Cena to have a great 2019. And I'm not going to get it. But I want to put it out there anyway. I want John Cena to have a good 2019. Cena should not, you know, whimper
I still want him to
away.
win that 17th title.
I still want him to.
Me too.
If he has a great year, then yeah, I want him to win that thing. But I don't want him to come back and phone it in like he has done this entire year.
Yeah.
If he does that, then I don't want him to win the title. He can just go away, having had 16 world titles for all I care.
You
And
know,
also,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Undertaker, you got damn lucky.
You see, but I can forgive Taker because let's be real, Callum. He's been doing it. He's been doing this character for
30
longer
years.
than we've been alive, and I can forgive that. But John Cena, Tony encapsulated it perfectly, has aged 10 years in the last 2, and I don't understand why that is. And I think it's bullshit for a guy who was the company guy, who, you know, I was a WWE superstar when it wasn't cool to be a WWE superstar. And now he's literally doing everything he crapped all over The Rock for. And yes, he's come out and said, oh, you know, I was being foolish, blah, blah, blah. But no, John has more to offer. And I think he needs to have a better 2019 because this year was trash.
Well, those are the best and the worst of WWE. Those 5 parts there. Make sure you drop your comments below and tell us your thoughts on the wrestler side of things, and go on the other parts and do the same thing for the technical skills, the programming, the writing, the on-air personalities. We have one more section for the 2018 Smark Out Moment Awards, and that is to turn things around on us. Talk about the best and the worst that we did this year. So stay tuned, everybody. Part 6, the Smack Talk / Smark Out Moment Awards, are continuing there.